Welcome back to Digital Champions on Daily Ad Brief. I'm your host, Mike White, and on Digital Champions, we are talking to the experts in the industry, talking about the tips, tricks, trends, and the technologies they utilize to help customers build their business. Joining us today from Pennsylvania, we have Andrew Maffettone with BlueTuskr. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike. How you doing?
I am fabulous. So tell me about your company and all the amazing things you do to help your customers grow.
Yeah, so BlueTuskr is a full-service digital marketing company for e-commerce sellers. We have a pretty strong focus on an omni-channel strategy. So a lot of e-commerce sellers you'll find will have their own website, but they'll also be on Amazon, Walmart, eBay, etc. And we help basically come in and set up their entire marketing structure to make sure that all of those different sales channels that they're on are all looking the same, sounding the same, and all of the marketing that they're doing is leveraging each of them as best as possible.
What's the biggest challenge that you see or the biggest mistake businesses make when they try to handle all of this in-house for their e-commerce company? How long is this program?
Yeah, so you got time. Handling it all in-house makes a lot of sense when you get to a certain size. We tend to find once sellers kind of surpass like that 15 to 20 million mark, I actually find that it's better for them to have it in-house because there's a lot more intricacies behind what's going on in the business and things like that. But in the beginning, you can't really afford to have someone do it correctly, and you also can't really afford to do it incorrectly. So having someone who's just a generalist in-house can usually cause a lot of issues. They're not really knowledgeable in a certain spot, but even if they are really knowledgeable in a certain spot, you then end up outsourcing to someone who has a specialty. But the problem with that area is then your in-house person basically becomes an account manager and is just like trying to talk to all the different freelancers and agencies and stuff that they're working on. So we really kind of come in as like your outsourced marketing department. So our account managers actually basically act as like a fractional CMO. Our entire marketing department acts as basically a fractional marketing department. So that way you can leverage professional, skilled people without having to pay the ridiculous amount that it would take to have all those people in-house.
What's the biggest pain point you have when buying programmatic media or working with DSPs?
Sometimes it's the lack of data. Depending on the ones you're using and which platform you're on, sometimes there's just not enough data that's being supplied. So for example, in Google Ads, if you're doing like a smart shopping campaign or something along those lines, you have no real control over it. You're kind of just, there's no terms, you can't see anything. So it can sometimes be blind. And the other side of it is depending on the size of the company, most sellers we find don't realize like you have to supply these platforms with a good amount of budget for them to have enough data to start to learn fast enough. Otherwise, if you don't, it actually ends up not working very well and they give up on it and just go, oh, this didn't work. And then that's the end of it. When in reality, they just didn't give it a good enough shot.
What do you think the biggest change in the way people market their products and services is going to be over the next 12 to 24 months?
Slowly, people are going to start to realize that you really need to leverage a community and you have to kind of cater to a specific audience and make sure that you're adjusting accordingly. Like I find a lot of, obviously on our end, we work with a lot of sellers. So for e-commerce sellers, we find a lot of them are just kind of doing this spray and pray approach of like, everyone buy my product. It's great for everyone. Everyone should have it. When in reality, they really need to figure out who their specific customer is. And I think as time goes on, sellers are going to start to realize that just because you can't, it's just not sustainable to go that route. Plus, with all the issues that are kind of going on now, you don't want to go too wide. You really want to own an audience and then scale from there.
So the customers, as they continue to invest in different areas, do you come along or across a number of customers that just can't afford to win? And how do you handle those?
Getting creative. So yeah, a lot of times you find ones that can't afford to win. So obviously we're referring to paid advertising. If that cost per click is really high, but your product margin just isn't high enough to actually kind of, make it sustainable, you kind of have to figure out other directions. So paid advertising, while it can obviously be very beneficial, you typically want to go a different route of maybe focusing more on an SEO side or maybe more on a social marketing side, just so that you can kind of bring in as much traction and as much conversions as possible without having to pay for them. And that will eventually start to bring down your cost per acquisition, which means you'll obviously have more budget, and then you can put it into Google Ads or into really any paid advertising.
So when it comes to someone who wants to enter the industry, you've got someone graduating out of school right now. What advice would you give them in order for them to be able to really get their foot in the door?
So if you're coming, let's say, okay, so you're coming straight out of college, you want to start an e-commerce company, and let's say you're trying to bootstrap it. Usually what I suggest is to go to Amazon first. And the only reason I say that is because Amazon has a pre-existing audience. So you can basically put your product up there. You're going to have to run advertising. You're going to have to clean up your listing and make it look good. But it's a great place for you to kind of test the market and find out if people are willing to purchase your product. From there, once you find out, like, okay, they are willing to purchase this product, you have two options. You start to scale your product line and you expand from there, or you then start to basically build out your own website. And sometimes there's ways where you can run ads to your website, but allow them to go to Amazon. So now you're kind of testing, can I get my site to convert? Just they're going to do it on Amazon. And then from there, you cut that cord, let Amazon, do its thing on its own side, and you push all that traffic to, if you're running a Shopify store. So it's kind of like using Amazon as a testing area and then expanding from there to build out your brand.
What excites you most about the industry that you're in, and what scares you the most?
Well, what excites me the most is that it changes literally every day. We find a new platform has some new feature, or there's some new rule that Facebook put into place or something like that. And I would say what scares me is that it changes literally every day, and I have no idea what's going to happen next. Sometimes you get a heads up like you do with iOS changes and things like that, but that is definitely the pro and the con about this industry.
Well, Andrew, I appreciate you coming on the program today and sharing your insights, so thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
To find out more about BlueTuskr and all the amazing things they could do to help your company grow, visit us at dailyadbrief.com. We'll see you next time on Digital Champions.